I want to ask you all a truly important question. You may or may not have an answer, or it may not be clear to you. But the question is really, who or what is the ruler of your life? Who is running the show? And if you don't have an answer, I will provide it. It's your mind. In almost every case, the mind tells you what to do, how to respond or react to every stimuli, how to project your life, how to review your life, how to live your life. Some of us are blessed with really well-maintained, well-developed minds. Some of us are not. Some of our minds are very lazy and some of our minds are very, very chaotic. And yet they're running the show. Some of us are somewhat mindless. Not meaning your mind isn't in charge, it's just you have given over control to a kind of non-existent ruler. So you just kind of do whatever you feel like. But truly the mind is still there, watching, sometimes judging, sometimes laughing at you. But the source of all of your suffering and some of your pleasure and some of your creativity and some of your brilliance and some of your stupidity is your mind. If you didn't have a mind, what would be in charge? What would control you? What would drive you? What would inform you? What would direct you? Well, a lot of our religious teachers, spiritual teachers, talk about God, talk about higher consciousness, talk about awareness, talk about the self. And it's somewhat a distinguished force from the individual egoistic self, which is primarily created by and dominated by your mind. And most of us don't know how to get in touch with the self, God, higher consciousness. Those of us who have arrived at this particular class over the course of years and decades have been given a great gift, which is essentially how to let go of the primacy of the mind and to begin to reach for guidance from a higher source. I hate to put it as an elevated source, but in a way it is. It knows more than the mind does. And only by letting go of your mind, learning to surrender your mind, surrender your reactivity of mind, can you begin to discover this deeper, higher, wiser, massive, loving reality that knows you better than your mind does. It is there all the time. It watches you all the time. It observes you at every moment. It is part of you. It is, in fact, more than part of you. It is you. But we create this false awareness, this false sense of self from the very beginning, from the moment we're born. We create this reactive self, which is the mind, the me, the I. I am this, I am that, I like this, I like that. And the mind, in being reactive to everything, builds a self, an ego self, that usually lives until the last second of your life, at which point it is dismantled, I believe, don't hold me to this, and takes you back to your true self in a journey called dying. Because it's so hard for us to let go of our mind during our lives, where we have all these years to learn how to do it, dismantling yourself at the very end, dismantling the mind at the very end, is probably not going to be easy, just because you can probably tell it's not easy doing it day by day by day by day over years and decades. So why would it be easy to just let it go at the end, and having it just pulled away in some kind of annihilation is not the best approach to witnessing your true self. The journey we are on is a gradual, kindly, loving, graceful letting go and surrendering to who we truly are. And it's a journey because nobody is very good at it. We are so addicted to the mind's interpretation of manifestation. We so live in that we really can't imagine something greater ruling us. Can't imagine it. But every so often, if you're lucky, you're initiated into a glimpse of that greater reality. It can come through anything. So many people have it just as children, suddenly realizing that the whole world is them. I think I've told you my first experience of that was in a sandbox, playing, and suddenly the sky disappeared and the whole universe appeared. Galaxies spinning in space. And I went, wow, what's that? But I knew something was much bigger than I had imagined. And of course, I had various initiations along the way from LSD to Rudy. And all of these have been about how to surrender the mind. Take away its power, its control, its rulership, its dominance, and let the very thing that manifests and creates mind take over. Give yourself over. Surrender to yourself, to your greater, higher self. Each of us comes to this practice out of a hunger and a need to get out of our struggle, out of our delusional self, the ego self, which knows so little really about the massiveness of this world. It's so ill-informed. It knows about us, and it knows about we like this and we don't like that, and too much salt and too much sugar. And it knows those little things and can sometimes react well to that. Cut back on salt, cut back on sugar, often not. It gets addicted to stuff. But the reality is, if you want peace of mind, a mind that is still pointed and quiet and allows you this beginning of a awareness of what is behind mind, you have to practice letting go and surrendering the power of the mind every day. And if you start to do that, that which is behind the mind pays attention to your effort. And I have found that it supports that effort. It encourages that effort. The more you start to go into your quote unquote higher self, deeper, greater, more expansive, loving, godlike self, the more you enter that, there is a kind of very quiet knowing that occurs. And that knowing is not intellectual, it is not mindful, it is simply aware. And that awareness pervades everything that your mind is involved in. And yet, it is a space of such embrace and comfort, appreciation, awe, wonder, that it's extraordinary to me that I and all of us have lived so long in the mind. It's taken me a 50-year journey and perhaps 50 million life journey, I don't know for sure, to finally step away and lay down my brain, lay down my sense of being a person or a specific person, lay down my history, let it all go the way we've been trying to practice to do, and suddenly discovering, oh, I am that. I am that. It's not exactly shocking. What's shocking is that we don't know that. We don't live that. The truth is, you are that. We are that, singularly and collectively, that. And it is such a remarkable reality. It is so overwhelmingly filled with beauty and love and all these exquisite sensations. Why do we let the mind separate us from it and rule us? Well, that's built into the equation. That's all I can tell you. We are born to develop a mind. We do it. It tells us all these things. We live with a mind that is reactive and sometimes nuclear reactive, which blows up everything in your life and causes great tragedy and suffering. Or you have a mind that reacts with intelligence and with knowledge and with some insight. But mostly, what you want to do is lay it down, if only for a few minutes, and find your way beyond it. And if you find your way beyond your mind, you will start to be encouraged to do that more and more and more and more until something happens and you kind of go, oh, my mind is not in charge anymore. Oh, something else is going on. Oh, I am that thing. I am that awareness. I am that larger knowing. And when that occurs, it's called an awakening or an enlightenment or a liberation from your mind. It can happen and mostly does gradually. Enlightenment is a word that really isn't just singular. It's light getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter until poof, pop, it's gone. The mind just is not the primary ingredient. It's not completely gone because you're still alive. And mind is very embedded in bodily awareness. So what happens is the dominating ruler of all of this is no longer the mind and your body and your emotions. The ruler is this larger truth of being. And it informs your mind and talks to it and works with it, and you become a servant of. I know that word is terrible for most of us, but you become an expression of this greater being. And it is beautiful beyond understanding. And it is what we are all wanting. But are we wanting it enough to change rulers, to stop paying attention to the sovereign of the mind and let that which created the mind become the larger voice? That's really what we're here for. Not a lot of people do it. for a lot of reasons. And we all know the programming is not toward thy will be done. The programming is really, I want you, get me all my stuff. I want what I want, and I want it now, and I do this, and I do that. And it's very problematic. And it's very problematic because it's a temporary arrangement. You only get it for a little bit of time. It's very much against it. Anybody else having or getting more than you or what you have, or it has, it has jealousy, it has envy, it has obsessive qualities. Mind is a real problem. And for a second, let me just switch into the present tense, which is we are in the midst of a pandemic. The world is becoming a toxic, dangerous place for most of us. And each of us are toxic or possibly dangerous to each other. And the mind has a really hard time with that. The mind is fearful. The mind is uncertain. The mind is untrusting. Some people think this is all a hoax just because they can't deal with the concept of this toxicity. Some people are locked in their rooms and not going out even to get the mail. I mean, everybody's in a different place. And we are at the beginning of an explosion of greater manifestation of this toxicity over the next few months. And we all know that. If you watch the news, you pay attention to the outside world, you know it's going to get worse, and it's scary, and it's a problematic thing. It is a universal thing, and many of us have individual minds but don't realize that our individual mind is connected to the collective mind. So all of this stuff that's going on in the world is really a shared experience. And we don't know how to distinguish between other and self usually because we're not trained in that. And so we just take it as ours. And so many of us are feeling, especially as the holidays are approaching, very depressed. We're feeling like weighed down by loss, by sadness, by grief, by wishing it would be otherwise, and all of that, which is all playing in the mind. If you can try taking a deep breath and asking for help to surrender, you can begin to rise out of that collective fear and mindless or mindful craziness and relax into a still pointed place that goes, okay. And you become one pointed. That means in the very present tense, and you operate moment to moment to moment. And what you do when your mind starts to bring all of this stuff up inside you is you look at it and you go, oh, that. But if you're lucky, you don't make it yours. It just is. And trust me, right now, much of what's coming into your minds is collective. You just have to look at it and go, right. You don't have to engage it. You don't have to live it. You don't have to turn it into terrible suffering, which is what a lot of people are doing. And when you're in terrible suffering and your mind is ruling the game, where does that take you? It takes you to relief of suffering, which is what? Food, drugs, alcohol, whatever your choices are, takes you to all the wrong things. And in the end, suffering becomes greater. Because we're living in such complicated, difficult times, we are also living in a time of isolation, which means basically staying alone and relatively quiet. So the gift of that is just sit still. You have the time, do the work. Sit with yourself. Sit down, ask for help to surrender, open up, meditate, if you will, and find your way back to this larger knowing that is infinite and eternal and puts everything in perspective. It changes the equation. When the higher ruler takes over, it is full of wisdom and knowing, and it really guides you and helps you through your day, through your week, through your month, through your year, and through your life. And ultimately, it dissolves the mind and the separateness of the you, and you are free to be this vast infinite eternal awareness, which is the promise of anyone who works to let go of that mind. The mind will not go away as long as you have a body, but it will relax. It will get quiet. It will stop bothering you. And at some point in time, the mind will become a tool that becomes very functional. It helps you be creative. It helps you be articulate. It helps you express yourself to others. It helps you live your life. But it is no longer guided by your own separate self, but by your larger truth. This is where we're going, guys. This is the journey that we're on. This is the time where you have to put it into play, because if you don't put it into play now, the next few months are going to be really hard. If you don't use the muscle of surrender now, when do you have to use it? We're not going to have the holidays we want. We're not going to have the pleasures we want. We're not going to get the old historical perspectives that we have had. We're going to get something else. And let me just say, when you get into the truth of any given moment and you let go of the what was and what should be and what will be and all the stuff the mind presents, when you let go of all of that stuff, the what is, which happens to be right now, is unbelievably, exquisitely beautiful. That's all I can tell you. You may not have the thing you dreamed of or that you wanted or the holiday that you should have had or whatever that stuff is, but what you will get is this. This is it. And this is enough. And this is satisfying, comforting, loving, embracing, and truly beautiful. So I would encourage you, during a period of pandemic stillness and distancing from others, sit still. Be quiet. Do the work. Use this as an opportunity to truly find yourself. And if you do that, the self you find will be able to direct you, help you, and assist you through the corridors of confusion that lie ahead. Let it become the ruler. It is the ruler. It's not really giving it power, it's recognizing its power. Let go of the mind that thinks it knows and allow that which does know to tell you how to live your life. Any questions? Sorry, is there a hand up? Well, I hope that was clear. I have to tell you, the love that you guys bring up, the love that manifests in this class, is beyond anything I have ever experienced, and it happens every time. And there is an experience of it. It's almost, painful is the wrong word, but almost beyond anybody's individual ability to endure. On the other hand, learning to endure it is like the greatest thing ever. So let me just thank you, because I really do love you beyond what I can express. I can express. And I turned on their mute button, or turned it off. It's complicating. This is a very strange way to get together. This idea of whatever it is we're doing here on Zoom. But I have to tell you, it does work. And I only know it works because of the magnitude of feeling that comes inside. And it comes for every one of you. No one here is not a beneficiary of being loved by something way beyond Bruce. It just truly loves you. I want you to feel that and really, really want you to get in touch with that reality, because the mind breaks it up and dissects it into a million pieces, but the truth of it is direct transmission. You are loved. You are deeply loved. So I have one question, and I guess I'll ask you to do this with your hands raised. It's been recommended the possibility of, instead of doing 2 weeks in New York and 2 weeks in California, that I do alternating weeks. One LA or California, one New York, then California, then New York, or to keep it as it is, which is 2 weeks in each place. If you prefer it to be alternating rather than just 2 weeks together, would you raise your hand for alternating? I'm gonna have to hold them up just so I get it. So let me, for 2 weeks, who would prefer to be up 2 weeks? Huh. My wife. Get it.
I have a question.
Yeah, George.
I think we all know what you're saying and what to do, but how do you deal with resistance from doing what you know you should do?
That's a really good question, George. Rudy talked about resistance endlessly, because it's really what keeps us from manifesting this transition. How to best put it? It's kind of through practice. You know, I walk all the time. Actually, I've hurt my foot, but I've been walking for years now, and I don't always want to walk. I'd rather sit and watch TV or something, but I go for my walk because I know it's healthy and I know it's beneficial. And I just, when the moment comes to go for my walk, I don't debate it. I don't let the mind have any power over that decision to go. I just go. I make the bed every morning. I don't always want to make the bed every morning, but I do. I make the bed every morning because Rudy said, spiritual life starts with making your bed in the morning. And it seems like, well, yeah, we're just going to get back into this messy bed. Why make it? But you make it, I make it, or Blanche makes it, or we do it together because Rudy said to do it. And I realized I have resistance, not so much anymore, but resistance to doing that. And by doing the thing you resist, you break down the power of resistance because you begin to exercise a higher self. You begin to find the thing in you that's when you go on a diet and you go, no, I'm not going to have that candy bar. The thing that breaks down that softness of desire, that just says no, becomes stronger than the desire. And you get stronger and stronger. Practice of spiritual life is sit, ask for help to surrender, because none of us can quite do it on our own. Be present, do the work, ask, and find the power that goes, okay. When I used to sit every day, which I don't do at this point, but it's like I don't sense a second when I'm not, in a way, sitting. But when I sat every day, I would say, please help me to surrender. And I would sit there until I surrendered. Surrendered to me was a feeling that would come up inside of yes, or acceptance, or joy, or openness. And there were so many different ways, but until I got that, I wouldn't get up. I wouldn't stand up again. And if I had days where it wouldn't happen, then the whole day in my mind was working on that, even though I had to drive the kids to school or whatever, go to work. It became the driving force. It's really about persistence, insistence, demand, control, getting control over your life. And that's the only way to break down resistance. Otherwise, resistance wins. And where does it come from? The mind. The mind just is lazy. It doesn't want to do the work. It doesn't want to get there. And the crazy thing about resisting what is why? What is the secret of truth. It's the very essence of it. You may not feel good in the moment, but it doesn't feel good because there's a buildup of resistance. And all of that resistance creates a lot of tension and a lot of drama and a lot of sadness and fear and difficulty. And we just don't want that, so we don't break it down. You have to empower yourself and ask for help, for the power to break down resistance. But if you don't do it, I will tell you, at the end of your life, it will be done for you. And it doesn't mean you won't be resisting. You will probably be resisting every microsecond as all of that stuff's broken down. And not to create fear, but that's really hell. That's what hell is. It's the complete dissembling of your idea of who you are. Broken down, taken away in slow motion as you depart life and body and self as you know it. As you return to the glory of the true self and you're taken apart, you won't like it. If that can stimulate you at all, do it now. Do it now. Because I can tell you from what is an emerging experience, it is worth it. The beauty of what is underneath all of this stupid mind stuff is exquisite. It's exquisite. Why would one not want it? That's the question. That's the thing I do not understand, but we're so programmed into holding on to me and I and this and that, and we don't even see the possibility of getting free of it. Well, let me tell you, you can, and it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth every second you put into it, because from what I am experiencing at this juncture in my life, which is a culmination, I think, of decades and decades of striving to get there, I have finally, again, beyond my understanding, been told, oh, I am there. That's all that happened. He said, oh, you're there. Oh, that's it, done. Oh, I'm there. And you can do exactly that, but nobody does it. Nobody does it. Knock and you shall enter, it shall open unto you. Knock, ask. Do the thing, even if there's a part of you that would rather go to the movies. Like, well, now we can't go to the movies or watch a 20-hour television series. Just go, no, let me do this work first. Then I'll reward myself with 20 hours of serial television. But this is the first. It's the primary thing. And why? Because what it gives you is better than any television show. It's better than any candy bar or ice cream you could possibly eat. It is so much better. Why? Why do people fight this? Why do we resist it? Laziness, inertia, ignorance. Ignorance is a big part of it. We just don't. We're not motivated. But anything I can do to help motivate you in that choice. And it's so funny because you think of it as, oh my God, so much work. Well, in the end, it really is not that. In the end, it's like, done. You're here.
One has to get tired of
What?
the mind slaying one has to get tired of the mind slaying your soul, so to speak.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Rudy, that was Rudy's line too. Of course, the mind is the slayer of the soul. That is exactly what goes on. And I get it. I understand it. I have endless compassion for it because, of course, I was a mind-driven person my whole life, and it still creeps up. I still see it. But now I look at it and go, oh, mind. Oh. And I just go, click, done. I don't give it that power. I just don't. Sometimes it rises up in a big way, and I have to stop and go, it's really powerful, that mind stuff. But then the thing that's beyond mind is more powerful. And it just says, quiet down, take a look, look at this thing. Does it matter? Usually no. And then it says, okay, let it go. And I let it go. And keep going. I mean, it's so shockingly beautiful and wonderful. And I can't stand the fact that I'm talking about it and that each of you doesn't just get there. But I get that because it took me 50 years to get to this moment, to this. And so I it's not like I don't understand, but I will tell you, all I can tell you, the promised land is available. You are walking toward the promise. Not only are you walking to the promised land, you live in it. Even with COVID, even with all this stuff going on, this is the promised land. It is the most amazing, wondrous, spectacular creation imaginable. And you live in it. How did this happen? How did you get here? I mean, that we don't know. I mean, I don't know. But I do know, I mean, I can give you ideas about it, but I do know we're here. We're here. We are really, really here in a wonderland of creative brilliance that has yin and yang, dark and light, good and evil, all that stuff working. But there is a place that transcends that. There is a place that looks at it and goes, yes. And it can get painful. And as you get older, as you and I all know, the body gets more and more in our face in a way. It starts to go through more disintegration. That hurts. So if you don't have any kind of ability to step back and watch it, then you're caught in that disintegration, and it's a hard ride. But Rudy just said over and over, do the work, do the work. Sit still, be present, and it will start to happen. And I do think there is a moment where the larger mind, whatever you want to call it, the higher self, goes, okay. It's kind of like you've asked enough times, you've proven yourself worthy or whatever it is, and then it just goes, okay, done. You know, and if you're hesitant, and if the mind is still the ruler, then the true ruler knows that you're paying obedience to the wrong thing, and it just doesn't step in. So if your mind is the ruler and you can't let go of that, you're listening to the wrong voices, to the wrong directives, and that's how human beings function. It's kind of how we're programmed to function. Excuse me, but I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do it that way. And I really love you, and I really know all you have to do is lay down your subservience to this mind thing, and let this greater knowing show itself. It does show itself. I feel it in both of you, you and Cheryl. You are really, it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter. It truly is. And just let it glow. It's right there, George. It's not like hidden anywhere. And it's not like there's any real resistance. It's just go, I get it. I get it. And then just live it. And it's a dance, and it does take some, I don't know what it takes exactly. For me, it ultimately took a huge amount of pain to finally break it apart. So maybe that's what's involved. I don't know. I think a lot of people, it just happens much more gently. But whatever it is, keep at it, because it's worth it. And because what I see in you, and really everybody sitting here, is an evolving awareness and consciousness and light that will prevail. Ultimately, it will tell you and prove to you that it's in charge, and you will bow down and say thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. So as we work, we are kind of like shedding parts of ourselves, and there are I don't know, maybe something that was locked within you, and you're meditating, and then it comes up, right? So from what I understand, we're supposed just to observe it. even if it's painful, and just keep on doing the meditation? Or
Basically, yes.
to let it go and ignore it? Or
Well, ignore it isn't quite the right word. Awareness, pay attention, observe. The problem is wanting to understand it in a contextual way, in a mindful way, is giving power to the mind.
Mm.
And many of us do that. We need to understand what we're doing and how we're doing it, why we're doing it. And it's all intellect, it's all mind, it's all third eye, area, brain functional stuff. But it traps us in the mind, that you need to know what it is that is happening. I can only tell you, if you let go of that, you will know. But if you try to do it with the mind, you will not know. You will find something that you think gives you the answer, but the real answer often comes in through your belly and through your heart and not through your head. So trying to understand this, I get it. I know we all do it, and I know it's important, and I know when the flow is really happening, it will look like you have intelligence, but it isn't your intelligence. It's something much greater at play, and it knows more than you do. And I've become aware of how little I know. And every time I try to express it like I have the answer to it, it just dissolves, because it's not, there isn't, the moment you try to have the answer or give the answer, you're wrong. It's not finite. It doesn't lock in like that. It's amorphous in a way, but it is very powerful, and it knows. That's all I can tell you. So, I mean, the more I talk, I think the more confusing it gets to any of us who are sitting there listening and trying to put it into perspective and do the mind thing. So this is where I think it becomes painful for people, and I apologize, because it makes you think there's a way to get this and understand it. I'm trying to tell you something which is more subtle than that, which is stop trying. Just open your eyes, open your heart to whatever degree you can, breathe in life, see it, live it. It's a journey, and we all have to figure it out on our own terms. Every one of us is different. That's all I can tell you, but we're all on it. We're wildly different in our construct. It's hard for me to imagine how two people get along in the world, but there's enough universality to our being that allows for us to connect in deeper places and ultimately live lives in the same space. But you have to figure this out on your own, and you will not do it with your mind. You lay your mind aside, and the mind will ultimately grasp and understand it in a way enough to make you know that it is a servant of that which it understands, without being the source and the generator of understanding. It's a machine. It's something that works to facilitate greater awareness. Like a computer, if you give the computer power, and my computers are getting power. I use my phone and I write, and it knows the word I'm about to write. I find that just amazing. Amazing. And artificial intelligence is like the mind made manifest. It knows us. Maybe it'll free us of thinking we're so smart, but it's smarter than me. It knows the right word and how to spell it. Kind of shocking. So we're on this journey into and out of and beyond mind. And it's a great journey. You were born to be on this journey. You are lucky beyond belief to be here now. This is the greatest gift imaginable, truly. And I really am so grateful to share it with you. So we've been talking a long time. I will consider this idea of alternating weeks, since it seems to be, I'll ask the class in LA next week, or in California, and then I'll make a decision and let you all know. If for some reason I am not back online with you before Christmas, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Have a wonderful holiday. If you're having it in isolation, feel the whole world celebrating it with you, and don't feel separate from anybody. Okay? And I really love you all, and happy holidays.